for has to be much larger.
I could have not agreed with you more, Deborah. I think the moments of crisis is when a lot of characters get tested, right? Mm-hmm. And you look at a brand as an individual, as a persona. How authentic is the set of actions that brand, that persona takes? And I think in the moment of crisis, all of it is under a magnifying glass, and people's emotions are much more charged. Mm-hmm. People's attention is much more in tune with what's going on, and anything that is shallow, either best case scenario just becomes noise, or mm-hmm. worst case scenario can blow up and frankly blow back at the company or at that brand in a very negative way. And again, I'm sure all of the intent is the right one, but the more we talk about purpose, the more we try to put it at the center, the more I believe we need to be careful about what do we really do, and how do we judge ourselves or evaluate ourselves, to be a bit kinder to mm-hmm. us. But how do we evaluate ourselves in terms of truthfulness of that message? And mm-hmm. If we step back, by default, the definition of purpose is why. Why do we do something? Why do we live in a certain way? And in turn, if that's the why, what it is are you going to do about it? And I think going back to your questions and observations about the business and organizations, and does the purpose even need to stay around as under the umbrella of purpose? I would say at the end of the day, business is business, and the only way to deliver on the action and make sure that it materializes, in my humble experience, is to be clear what does success look like, and hence how do we measure it. And in the case of purpose, there has to be a societal impact that comes into play as one of the key KPIs. And again, I'm not sure that has really been fully threaded yet throughout the organizations.
Well, and it can't be easy to necessarily measure societal impact, because there's so many factors that can impinge on them. So it would be interesting, like everything else in business, to figure out a way to make it neat and tidy and measurable. But I have the feeling that purpose, much like a word like diversity, will just spill over and, will take on a bit of a life of its own. However, it does feel right now that we're living in a cultural moment where things have changed, and mm-hmm. what matters now is very different. Are you feeling the same, both as a marketer and as a human being, as a consumer?
Yes, absolutely. That's the short of it. But and look, I actually not talking about whose job is what, but it's been a long time since I stopped calling myself a marketer, because again, to me, what we are doing is building businesses that last and make a difference, and that to me is a very important differentiator, in a sense of being able to own an agenda of the total business that is led through the brand, versus mm-hmm. thinking of how to only activate touch points. No disrespect to the word marketing, but somehow over years, I think the definition morphed to mean just that.
Mm-hmm.
And then,
so what do you call yourself? What do you call yourself? A business person?
A brand builder.
A brand builder. Oh, I like that. Yes. That makes more.
And the reason why brands matter, because they drive the business. Mm-hmm. And if they don't, then nobody would care about them anyway. And, it's just a matter, it's a simple matter of business again. But, going back to your point around changes and what's going on right now, how it impacted, whether it impacted myself, whether it impacted my family, business, absolutely yes. And I think the biggest, change is that what's a premium today are actually things that we used to take for granted. And I'm talking about sanity. I'm talking about connection. Mm-hmm. I'm talking about freedom. All of those things, particularly in the society where I've been for a long time, now 10 years in the US, 10 years in New York, all of those higher order, very human things and needs, both things that you never thought twice about. It was a given. Mm-hmm. And I think we are finding ourselves in a situation where they're either almost completely taken away or at an extreme premium. And that by default redefines value systems and makes people pause and think what is really important to them. And, after all of it is said and done and we are hopefully on the other side, what it is we will take with us and what it is we want to leave behind. And I think there is a lot of very fundamental human reevaluation of how life shall be moving forward.
No, interesting. There's no question that this changed the world in a very profound way. But I think it's also changed consumers' expectations of brands. Could you talk a little bit about that? Are we in new territory here?
Look, Deborah, absolutely. And I think it goes back again to the discussion we had around purpose and how important it is today, not just preach, because there is a lot of noise out there, but do. And sometimes actually silent actions are much more powerful than very loud proclamations. And particularly in this moment where people are often lost or confused as to what can they do to help, when you also have brands that speak out loud but don't do anything about actually positively impacting the moment or positively impacting the life in a committed kind of way, then it almost leads to frustration and the top of mind awareness that we always used to track as brand people can turn totally against you in a split second. So yes, the expectations are much higher. People are much more in tune as to what you do as a brand. But in my mind, it's something to celebrate, because these higher standards will push us all as an industry do better and produce better work and really ask ourselves why this work matters.
Oh, that's amazing. That's really amazing. I'm happy to hear you say that. And I've always known that you've not only been an optimist, but in many ways you're also a philosopher. So it's good to hear some of this. I'll just ask you one last question before we go. And I know that you're in a new role now at RB. And what is your vision for that role that you have now as a brand builder? I got the language right. I love it.
There we go. Well, my role is definitely brand and business building one. And I am just, I'm humbled, excited, and exceptionally thrilled to be joining RB, which is where I'm at right now, to be joining RB in this moment of transformation of the total company and very profound focus on the purpose. And when I say that, I don't say it lightly, because under Lakshman Narasimhan's leadership, the commitment is now translating across the total business in all functions, and as a result of it, across all of the brands. And for me, the excitement really stems from the fact that in sexual well-being category, which is the category that I'm now leading globally, the opportunity is immense. It's a category that, you think of when you, let's say, think of pleasurable things in life, and it's a category you think of when you think of hardships in life. And, essentially making an impact on both of those aspects can make a huge difference for very diverse slate of people, for very diverse groups of populations across the world.
Yeah, of course, yes, yeah.
And frankly, we speak a lot about some pragmatic issues, some very unfortunate and very powerful health issues that are caused by the lack of sexual well-being, by the lack of education in that space. But equally, there is so much to be said about just wholeness of a person and wholeness of a human being that is actually universally at risk if people don't have, particularly, either don't have positive first sexual encounters or lack acceptance because of their orientation or because of their philosophy around their sexuality, and there, it just has never been enough addressed or focused on by any big player in the industry. And RB is so uniquely positioned to do just that. Historically, through acquisitions, we have put together a portfolio of power brands, and the ones that are particularly known are Durex, KY, essentially establishing a platform for us to learn about this category, for us to embrace what it means to play in this business. And now, with the transformation of the company, with the excitement that I see across our very talented teams about what they can do now that the purpose is at the heart of the business, as well as us putting our money where the mouth is, because the transformation is truly end to end. I think there has never been a better time to elevate this category within the business and actually completely reimagine how we can bring it to life and how we can impact people.
Well, that sounds not only very exciting, it also sounds noble and important, and particularly on a global basis. You have an amazing role, and you have every ability to do it very well. And I do hope that you'll come back and talk with us about how that process is going on.